U.S. rockets with ranges of around 70 kilometers would be enough for the Ukrainian army to repel Russian offensives. That's according to a key advisor to the Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky. Oleksiy Arestovich was reacting to President Biden's comment that the U.S. would not send Ukraine rocket systems that can strike into Russia.
Are you going to send long-range rocket systems to Ukraine?
We're not going to send to Ukraine rocket systems that can strike into Russia.
For more on this, we can now speak to Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson, who joins us live from London. John, thanks so much for joining us on Newsday. As we predicted, the European Union approved a watered-down sanctions on Russia. What were they, and what's the likely impact of those sanctions?
Hi guys, good to be on Newsday. Well, when we were talking yesterday, a full oil embargo on Russian oil was on the table in Brussels for this meeting of EU leaders, but that was never going to happen. And I suggested that there'd be a compromise, and compromise there was. What's been agreed is that there'll be a ban later by the end of this year on Russian oil arriving by ship into Europe. Meantime, oil arriving through pipelines will continue as normal. So it is a compromise, and the impact of that on Europe is, I'm afraid, more economic pain. Is pushing the price of oil up. The last time I checked, the price of oil was around $120 a barrel, and with the continuation of the conflict in Ukraine and all the other issues that are impacting on Europe at the moment, the likelihood is for oil to increase even further. As for the Russians, they're going to have to find other markets for their oil, and that shouldn't be too difficult, especially in the Far East. China, Hungary for oil at the moment, a huge expansion of the economy underway. India too, and there'll be other markets that the Russians can provide oil.
And it seems the Russians are still gaining ground in the Donbas region. What's the latest on that?
Yes, the push into Donbas is really quite extensive at the moment. They want to take the key city of Donetsk. They've almost done that by reports coming out of there. The governor saying that the city has been, in quotes, cut in half. What's happened to the civilians in that city, we know not, although I suspect most of them have been able to get away out of harm's way. The Russians really want to try to take this city, a strategic city on a key river crossing. It's a key transport hub, industrial area, and it will complete that arc that they want to create, covering a region from the Russian territory through Donbas and Ukraine. So a very important city for the Russians to take, and it seems like that city will fall in the coming days, the Ukrainians having to make strategic withdrawals to avoid huge losses there.
All right, John, President Zelensky is calling for more weapons, but the U.S. is denying supply of long-range rockets. Why is this so?
Yeah, Zelensky has been calling for long-range rockets for a few weeks now, causing quite a consternation in Europe and America, because the problem is that if he has these long-range rockets that can travel, say, 500 kilometers, then the Ukrainians can start attacking across the Russian border, and that will seriously escalate the conflict at the moment. At the present time, it's confined, in effect, to Ukraine and some of the edges of Russian territory. But if Zelensky gets these long-range rockets, then that, as I say, could seriously escalate the conflict. And the West, including America, says no, we're not going to supply those long-range rockets. The Russians themselves have rockets that can reach between 500 and 1,000 miles, but the West isn't prepared to give the Ukrainians that kind of firepower. They are, though, willing to supply M27-0 rockets, which have a range of around 50 miles. And the Western nations feel confident that armed with those kind of rockets with minimal range, in effect 50 miles, then there's no risk of escalation of the conflict. But Biden making the position very clear yesterday, as we saw in that clip a short time ago.
Now, John, the Russian foreign minister is in Bahrain today. What's that all about?
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting to try to work out what's going on. I think it's a curtain raiser to his meeting with the Gulf Cooperation Council members in Riyadh tomorrow, and an important OPEC meeting as well. And this, of course, about the price of oil on the world market. And I think what Lavrov is doing is trying to make sure that the Gulf producing countries are on board with maintaining the price of oil that's around $120 a barrel or more, which of course they're very happy about. There is pressure from the West for OPEC countries to pump more oil to bring the price down, but so far they've resisted that. And I think what Lavrov is doing is making sure that the GCC countries are all on board with this policy of keeping the price of oil high for the time being. So I think that's what's going on, although he was giving nothing away at a press conference earlier. He talked about demining the Black Sea, so ships with wheat and maize can start crossing through the Bosphorus and into the Mediterranean. But there was no real talk of oil. But I suspect what's happening today is he's meeting with the King of Bahrain is a curtain raiser for the big meeting tomorrow in Riyadh.
All right, Arise Chief Correspondent John Cookson, thank you so much for joining us on the program today.